4:33. Meeting has been called to order.
Everyone, Amber has called the meeting to order, please.
Sorry.
No, not to be mean, just please. Roll call.
Roll call. My name is Amber Greensky. I am the co-chair of AIPAC, and I am leading tonight's meeting. I'll popcorn to whoever wants to go next.
I'm Curtis Goodsky. I'm a parent.
Don Melton, parent.
Emma Boje, I'm a student.
Dustin Christian, liaison parent.
Jamie Dela Cruz, a liaison.
Jeff Melton, American Indian Education Coordinator.
Gray Black, Office of Support for American Indian Education.
Jen Garbo, parent.
Crystal Puglisi, parent.
Oh,
The one that's not labeled is the last one.
and they are all on the Google, right? Correct.
Well, other than that one.
This one's not.
Did everyone here introduce themselves? If we can move to our online participants while I'm trying to get myself online.
Departments?
Yeah.
I do have a copy of the agenda. Who would like that, as well as a sewing machine report and
those?
And these two things should be on the Google Drive. What is not yet on the Google Drive is we have typed up a document of the previous discussion of the areas that people would like to see to go into the plan. Amber graciously allowed me to take pictures of that last week, and we turned it into like a document so you can look at it by Word. So I will just pass out one of each to everyone. Yep.
Allow your mic.
Everybody gets one.
Thank you.
Allow your mic.
I have a question. This is Jen Garbo online. Moving forward for the folks that join online, how will we be able to access documents? Like typically, other meetings that I join online, they put them in the chat, like the link documents in the chat. I don't know if we will are moving towards that.
That's an excellent question, and thank you for bringing that up. I am going to refer that to Jeff.
Of course. Goes with us. Do you have one over here? Oh, no, you brought it in over here. One moment, please. So, to answer that question, I think that would be a good idea. How do we do that? I am less familiar with Google Meets than I am, like, hypothetically with Zoom. So if we are to, I'll get you some documents in a moment, Lydia. Thank you for joining us. So I'm brand new to Google Meets. So is there an area in the chat where you can post a document?
Yeah, if you join the Google Meet, any link that you have, you can submit it into the chat and everyone can click on it and join it as well.
Okay.
Can you possibly access the two documents I have linked on there and put them in? Because I'm not able to.
Yep, I'm sending links right now.
And then, Greg, can you see if it's possible at all to, for the areas, the goals and areas document, to see if you can word it as a Microsoft Word document or whatever you typed it into the chat to see if it'll pop up for folks?
Oh, I can't.
It won't let you at all?
The battery's not.
Oh,
on my
okay.
Chromebook right now. I have it plugged in, but.
It looks like Eddie put in a document. You're able to. It is different than Zoom, but there are similar features in terms of you are able to link Google Docs in this Meet.
Thank Thank you.
whatever
Yes.
the word is.
So I think in the future, what I'm thinking is that we will probably continue to post them on the Google Docs that we post the documents on, and try to do both, and try to post them during the meetings on the chat, and see how that goes for the next meeting. Because I would like to make sure that everybody's being able to access those and being able to look at them.
I think there is one other person on our Google Meet, Angelica Ramirez. I think her email or handle is Save the Blue Skies. Is Angelica on there? Okay. Do you mind introducing? Can we have our online people introduce themselves too, just to make sure we're getting everybody?
We did.
I'm sorry, I am on here. I'm actually driving there because the link didn't work for me, and then I realized this code did work for me, but I'm already on my way. I don't know if I was me or somebody, or if that was did you for anyone else.
And that's okay. Someone just said there was another person that I missed. I just wanted to be sure you knew that we recognized you were in the room with us.
Welcome, Angelica. Please do not crash. I would feel really bad if you did.
I'm in the parking lot, so I think I'll be there in a bit.
Okay.
Awesome. I have our sign-in sheet kind of created with everybody. I'm saving it right now, so we have.
One is that I feel like it'd be good to have this in there a day early so people could review it. If there's anything they wanted to add to the agenda, they would have an opportunity to do
Yes,
that.
our agenda should get linked to our Google Meets. We had kind of created the entire year's worth of agendas and provided to them to our district representatives. So if we could just make sure those, at least that for that 1 month, gets added on and shared in our Google Meet documentation, that would be wonderful.
Eddie, you got that on there since I did put it on the calendar invite for the Google Meet?
What was that called again?
The agenda
Yeah, I put that in the.
in the chat. Thank you.
I mean, for the meeting.
That's what I was taking care of.
I know, before the meeting, and if we could get that done at least a day prior so people can review, because we've got our whole year's worth of agendas done.
Okay, I know you were adding last minute information.
Yes, and that
last time you
will
told me about.
always kind of happen.
Okay, so it's unclear,
It'll
when
automatically
I don't
update.
have an updated one.
It'll automatically update.
It'll automatically update in Google Forms. That's the
Yeah.
good thing about them.
And for people who are like here in person, we can just do a quick touch base at the beginning and just say this has been added to the agenda. Please write it in.
And then add another version for the people that can't access the Google documents.
No, as Jamie was saying, like if you go into the document.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that. It's just the people online were saying that they can't access the Google documents all the time.
Well, I don't know why.
Is that?
Sometimes you have to have access.
Like Jen Garbo was
Yeah, with Google Documents, you might have to like be granted access, correct, Lydia?
I think there's certain settings
So-
that you can put
No,
that says like allow access to all,
So-
or there can be like limited or request access. So upon the creation of document or sharing it, you can. There's different settings
Yeah.
that each document can
Yeah.
have on
Yes,
there.
Can I-
and mine
this is-
is unrestricted. It's anyone who has the link.
Somebody is trying to speak online. If we
I'm-
could-
I'm sorry, this is Jen. So the first document, I'm still, it's trying to get in and then it dinged and my camera shut off. I have like an exclamation point, so I don't know if my camera's gonna be able to come back on. The sewing machine document, I was able to open no problem. And then there was a document that wanted me to request access, so I requested access just as a viewer only. So it's kind of a mixed bag with these documents, which is fine. Or no, I'm sorry, excuse me, I was able to open the agenda one, but there's one that wanted me to, so the agenda, I'm able to open the sewing machine, and then there was one that I had to request access, but now my camera is goofed up, so I don't know, I'm gonna try to work with that and just wait for that access on that third document. So I don't know what happened, but I prefer Zoom. I actually hate Google Meets. I think it's awful. It's very glitchy to me. I usually work with Zoom every day, but that's okay. That's just my 2 cents.
All right. Yes, and I want to apologize to everybody who tried to join Google Meet last time and wasn't able to. Clearly, we're still working through those issues, and hopefully we'll have a more concrete plan with a recurring Google Meet link, so that information won't change. But we're moving towards a solution, and I appreciate the feedback that our our documents get linked into our chat, potentially even through PDF if people don't have access to Google Meet. I think that would be appropriate. Did I hit everything that we just commented on? We just met last week, so, and we're still, it's been a busy week for us. Several of our parent committee members met with the Office of Collaboration and Dispute Resolution yesterday to try and iron out some ongoing issues, and they'll be reaching out to other parent members. So if you hear from them, please make yourself available as you are willing to participate in that process. What else? We have our new coordinator who's been meeting with parents and trying to get a feel for what our concerns are and what's been happening in the community and how we can move forward in a good way. I think that's all I have for committee member reports since our last meeting last Wednesday. So if anybody else has any committee member updates or reports they want to comment on, I open the floor. All right, hearing nothing, I'm going to move on to new business. I'm going to skip the first update and just move on to the second one, which is to submit an agenda request for AIPAC to present our annual compliance documents to the school board. We want to get on the agenda early so we have everything in place and we know the dates we need to be ready for. So if there's documentation to be submitted to board.
Stop it. No, stop it. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm like, oh, stop it. What?
I'm talking to my dog. I'm sorry. I'm fooling around with. I think I unmuted myself. I'm trying to get my camera to work.
That's okay. That is 100% okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So as far as submitting an agenda request, we would like to be on either the school board's agenda or the committee of the whole or the regular school board session in February. Does everybody agree with that? Our statutory deadline is March 1st. I think usually committee of the whole is at the beginning of the month and the school board meeting is towards the end of the month. I am going to put that on our new coordinator to submit that agenda request as I think that is appropriate. Is there any objection to that? Hi, Jeff.
You heard you all the way down the hallway.
I did.
The coordinator?
I heard the thing about the coordinator.
We were just talking about one of our obligations as an AIPAC is to submit annual compliance documents to the school board. Parents have to present them along with recommendations if that's necessary depending on our vote. Just to make sure we're all on board, we have our spot on the agenda and it's not a late last minute thing. We want to get on the agenda good and early. So if you could submit an agenda request in February, I think you'd have to work with Anthony Bonds.
Okay.
To say, ask him, do you want us to present at the committee of the whole meeting? Or do you want us to present at the actual school board meeting?
Okay.
So I'm looking, I pulled up the calendar, and the committee of the whole is on February 5th, which is the first Thursday, and then the regular school February 24th on the fourth Tuesday. I don't know if anybody wanted to look at calendars, if we have a preference to request one or the other, or do we want to just go with whatever?
I have no preference. I say wherever they want us. In the past, they've said there's more robust discussion if we present at committee of the whole. I think in the past we went with at least the last two years we went to present at the actual listening, or not the listening session, but the actual school board meeting, just because we didn't have enough time. We didn't feel like we had enough time to meet and agree on recommendations and have our vote. That's why I kind of want to get it in early so we know what timelines we are working with.
Committee as a whole or
School board.
or the whole school board.
Yeah.
And you want that for February?
Yes. The statutory deadline means the documents have to be submitted by March 1st. That way, if there's any hiccups, you have plenty of time to smooth them out.
What are the dates for the school board meeting and the committee?
Committee of the whole meeting is February 5th, a Thursday, and then February 24th, which is a Tuesday. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the Tuesday would be those meetings, the first Thursday, February 5th, those meetings start at 4:30. And then the regular school board meeting, which is that Tuesday, that school board meeting starts at 6:30. I think we presented at either one in the past.
I've only been part of the ones where we're presenting to the school board themselves. And it's, you just pretty much go say, we kind of have a little script written, you read off of it, and you get your signatures, and then we leave, and then it's in their hands.
So which one do you all prefer?
I have no preference.
Okay. Does anybody else have a preference?
I think you aim for the first one and hopefully you don't.
We're kind of like mind on that. That's kind of what I was thinking.
So yeah, like I said, that'll be a discussion for you and Mr. Bonds,
Yes.
and what the school, who controls their agenda. But we want to get in early so it's not a last minute thing.
Absolutely.
So I think I have a future agenda just to check in with you. Did we get our date set so we can all get it into our calendars?
Yes.
So that's an action item for you. Okay, so next, update on American Indian Education Application Program implementation. We're about 4 months late on our application, but that doesn't mean programming hasn't already happened this year. So I guess this is just a minute to get that feedback and make sure those items get into the plan as appropriate. So, like I said, I talked to Jamie. I think, did Dr. Ninham come for an Indigenous Games thing at some point already this year?
Not this year.
Not this year yet.
We haven't signed any contracts with anyone this year yet.
Okay. So never mind. What I thought happened hasn't happened. So if there are things that happen, this is kind of an open floor so that we can hear about them.
Yes, because I would like to know.
Can you explain more background for those of us who are new?
So our American Indian Education State Aid application details our American Indian Education Program goals and initiatives that happened during the year. Prior to last year, it was always due November 30th of the same school year, right? So programming happened, and as the plan was being written, they changed that at the state level. They changed that deadline to June 1st last year. We did not get our plan in and have been granted an extension, but that doesn't mean programming hasn't happened already this year, I guess. But maybe programming hasn't.
So are you talking the calendar year or the school year?
The school year. The school year. So our school year goes July 1 right to June 30th. I don't believe our liaisons are on contract till the end of August, correct?
Correct.
So as this is where I would want to know what's been coded to American Indian education already this year, right? So we've had food at our meetings. We've had, at minimum, parent committee meetings and outreach events, right? There were some swag items at Unity in the community. There were, Denfeld Hunter Kickoff happened. There were some swag items there.
I'm starting to meet with the Indigenous Student Council.
Okay.
We had our first, we had 2 meetings. We supported during Opportunity Days, we did outreach. We sent out a letter to all students who were already listed on a Parent Square message, American Indian students in Denfeld, and invited them to come to Student Council. We held 2 different meetings to try to do outreach for that. And then the students worked on doing the orange ribbons for raising awareness for Every Child Matters yesterday.
I saw the picture on
Somebody
Facebook.
somewhere, yeah,
really liked it.
I can't find it, but we made the Facebook page. So.
You said ribbon skirts?
No, ribbons, the orange ribbon.
It was kind of like a little, just a
We
little
made
orange
pins,
ribbon
yeah.
pinned
And a
to
couple
their
kids
shirts.
made t-shirts. I didn't have enough time. I just kind of went out and bought some material, and they made their own t-shirts.
That's awesome. So that needs to go into kind of the plan, so you get reimbursed under our AIPAC plan, because that's a cultural component.
Yep.
There's cultural teaching in there. There's awareness.
And that's something that we're going to continue to support throughout the year. We have a list of things that we're going to be doing. The next thing would be an Indigenous Peoples Day celebration, recognition.
Where will that be at?
That'll be here.
At Denfeld?
Yes.
Okay. At what time?
We're shooting for 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. And how long will it run?
It will be about 30 minutes. So we will have a land acknowledgement, and then we'll have a drum. So we'll do a couple honor songs, and then in between I'll read some informational things.
And will that be, I'm guessing, outside?
Yep, right
Okay.
out here in the courtyard. So it's something that I've done at the elementary schools before, but now I'm at Denfeld, so I'm doing it here.
And that's of course on the 13th.
Yes.
Are we taking any of the high school students down to the City of Duluth Indigenous Peoples Day celebration like they have in the past?
I don't know if I'm going to do that. I was thinking about it. We'll see how far we get on our events that we planned here, because that's kind of my priority. Is I'm supporting the student council, so I want to make sure they do that first.
So if I may add to that, I actually had wondered about that possibility. So I actually know somebody at City Hall, and to let you know, the building will not have access to bathrooms that day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something you want to take into consideration when considering going there. I know that could be...
They've had a lot of challenges with that trip
Yeah.
before in the past, so we'll see.
And I do know from experience that parking down there can be interesting. I do know that I believe that event is scheduled to start at 10 a.m., so there might be also a little bit of a difficulty with the time transfer if students wanted to attend both. So thoughts on that?
I would say this definitely has to be an employee-led initiative, because you're transporting students, so it's kind of really dependent on the capacity of the liaisons
And taking the
to
time
take
off
that
school.
responsibility.
Yeah.
And taking the time off.
That
How do you
turns
choose
into
the
a big
students
issue,
who are leaving?
Because my thought is, since Jamie is working on organizing this, that it would be kind of cool to, like, I guess, support that over going down to the City Hall with the...
Absolutely, if we could even like transport some East students who might be interested over here to take part in it, or even do a live link.
I'm working on that.
I'll do a live link that people in other classrooms could say, let's see what's going on Denfeld for Indigenous Peoples Day. So
A live link might be more
That's what I'm
feasible.
yeah. So accessibility is really important. Again, these would be our Indian homeschool liaison-led initiatives. Our schools are required to have 60 minutes of basically Indian education for all on Indigenous Peoples Day. I think what you're talking about would cover 30 minutes of that, but every student needs at least another 30 minutes in that day, and that's a statute. That's not participate in that, but just to make everyone aware that that was one of the 2023 statutory updates. Amber.
So I'm a commissioner for the Indigenous Commission, and we're the ones that are coordinating that with City Hall. And we put in a request to have the bathrooms available on that day at City Hall, so. There will be bathrooms. And we're gonna have Harbor City students there doing a big round dance, so if, anybody wants to do a big round dance,
We could
You're welcome.
piggyback and work with Harbor.
Yeah.
If any, okay, so that's a good collaborative initiative, if somebody wanted to run with that. I saw Don with your hand up.
I was just wondering because when you talk about these different pots, I remember last year that Auntie had said things that certain things because of statute, right, get paid for by the district and not necessarily out of the state aid
Yes.
funds.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, well, if it's a mandated thing by statute, then it probably doesn't come out of the American Indian Education Fund. You know, I don't know, but I just know that.
As far as that's why I was bringing in that if people want to watch the live link that Jamie's doing
Right.
as part of her own initiative with students, that doesn't mean our liaisons ignore the day, right?
Right, absolutely.
They can do their initiatives that are above and beyond what the district is doing.
I just know we just got done talking about the pot of money, so
Yeah,
it's like, okay,
yeah.
and it's like, okay,
If
well.
it hits a cultural or if it hits an academic standard, we're not supposed to be able to use our Indian education state aid for it.
Right.
Because that's something they are required to do already. That is something you can contact Betsy Blackhawk, who is the program administrator for MVP. If you have a question, if something's allowable, she will work through that with you, Jeff. As far as other implementation, I know at least my student did get forms. So there was a mailing that went out. If we could get an update on how much a mailing costs, so that when we're putting it in the plan, if we're wanting to send out newsletters, quarterly newsletters, we know what to budget for and we can get that information, correct? Correct?
Yes. It's been added to my list to look into.
Okay, that's awesome.
You said for quarterly newsletters.
That's what has been suggested in the past. Obviously, it's all going to depend on what our budget allows for, right? Because a mass mailing it is expensive, right?
Especially nowadays.
Yes. About 1,000, is that what I heard?
No.
Oh, okay.
oh, I
Sorry.
said it takes a lot of time.
Did we get a hand raise? I think I heard the little
Okay.
blip.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion? I have my hand raised, but any suggested? I just talked. I think quarterly newsletters would be awesome, but considering that Jeff just started and we are already, like, I'm already thinking about Christmas and, like, theoretically half the school year feels like it's already over. Could we just, for this year, maybe think about one newsletter, so from between Christmas and the end of the school year, so like a winter, spring newsletter, and then for the next school year, which would be 26, 27, I think like 2 newsletters a year, so we do like a fall, I don't know, maybe like between September and December, and then between January and May. Just having had a little experience doing some newsletters and things, I know it's a ton of work, and then the mailing and that kind of thing. So from a parent's perspective, I think it would be great to have 2. Quarterly seems like a lot, unless they were going to be sent out maybe through like Parent Square, like a link, like an electronic newsletter. But then we have to talk about a lot of parents and their availability with technology, and then grandparents as caregivers and things like that. So I don't know, maybe realistically we just think about one newsletter that's going to be a paper newsletter this year, because we're already, I don't know, I feel like we're already have enough on our plates collectively between now and the end of the year.
I appreciate that feedback. I think I am being overly optimistic with the quarterly newsletter. It was just that was in my head, so I appreciate that that perspective. And one is a 100% improvement from last year, right? So, and we already got a mailing out, at least with our forms, so I appreciate that. I know my student got them, so we have the ball rolling in a positive direction. Any other?
One more. Oh, I'm sorry, Amber.
Yes.
One more suggestion about the newsletter is there have been some additions, like with the new liaison and with Jeff. There could be some, just a full introduction of the, and then with Dustin is fairly new as well. It might just be helpful to have just a full new introduction of all of the liaisons and then the department. That just might be helpful too in a newsletter.
Great suggestion. I think I mentioned to Jeff having kind of a employee community outreach to introduce our new coordinator and our new liaisons, and just kind of a focused community effort to kind of meet our liaisons somewhere in the community with food and here's what and kind of basically what I mean, what you just described. So that is definitely something that could go into the plan.
Yes, and I do like that idea, and if I can figure out how to get it in there, it is on my list to try to include. And I think like extending it to the liaisons as well would be a great, like, introduce us to the community kind of experience. So
Absolutely. Increase parent involvement, let them know we're here to hear their voice, to uplift those American Indian voices in our community and hear their concerns, and that we're receptive to hearing them.
what would we call this event? A reception or?
I think a reception would be
meet and greet, introduction.
Meet and greet. I think even piggybacking on Indigenous unity in our community.
Okay.
Just honestly, any of those titles would work. But just making sure our parents and our community have a chance to meet you, Jeff, and to meet our Indian homeschool liaisons, even our committee members, and get this information to them. Just like a meet and greet.
I like that idea.
I was gonna say a meet and greet.
I think that's good. Okay, cool. Any other thoughts on additional things we would like included in the plan, or things that have already occurred this year? Lydia?
MEIA for students, graduation banquet in the fall, or graduation banquet in the spring, and that the planning that start significantly earlier than it has for the past 2 years.
Absolutely love that idea. In the past, we had a graduation planning committee, subcommittee. So maybe if anyone wants to take point, and Crystal, go ahead.
I was gonna say I totally agree with the end of year graduation thing, because last year we didn't even get noticed until literally I think it was like a week before school was over.
This is for the high school graduates.
Oh, elementary school too, they did like a thing or whatever.
Yeah.
at the end of the year. But yeah, that was like a week. We got a week's notice. They had nothing planned, nothing like sent out until the last week of school.
Yeah, we can definitely do better than that. I think we all agree. It would be honestly awesome to have an elementary school graduation across the board for our Indian students.
In the past, I was like, that's
Yeah. And honestly, it can build that unity across East and West, you know what I mean? If we're all meeting together, starting then, and then we've got our eyes on our kids.
I was just gonna say, I feel like some of that is like at the powwow when we recognize the students. That doesn't have to be the only way, but that was one way. We want to try to grow that or do something else like that. That would be a lot of people have the end of the year school powwows for their communities.
Yeah. And I think MIA and the graduation ceremony and a powwow all made it onto that post-it board list that you had typed up.
Dr. Dan. Yeah.
Dr. Dan Ninham, if he's making another, I mean, he's great. We always hear great things about him. We've heard talk about Ojibwe Quiz Bowl, starting a Quiz Bowl team. So there'll probably be some travel involved with that if we're wanting to collaborate. Even, I don't know what, we're always meeting at Denfeld. So if there's, we could even have like an after-school club and like alternate East versus West, even like internal kind of back and forth competitions.
Some of that. The other thing so Rock Your Mocks comes in November, so
Okay.
the student council has asked me to help them start making moccasins. So I've tried to figure something out with community education, but I am more than willing to do that. It would have to be an after-school thing. So we have now, if we start now, we have till November.
Okay.
So we have 1 month if we want to do that. And then I talked to the middle school with Dustin and Tori, and they're willing to bring a van of students down here to meet with us so the high school kids can help them to do this project.
And that, I love the sound of that. So we would need to include contact information for someone to teach the moccasin class. It sounds like we have somebody who knows how to do it, so that should be very easy. And then just determining how many times a week we need to meet to complete the projects, and then supplies, sinew leather.
I reached out to someone for the supplies, and they have a couple of hides on hold for me, and they're willing to let me get them and be invoiced. So as soon as you put this in the plan, we can start.
That's awesome.
Like we can have the space here 3 times a week. The middle school kids would come at least twice.
Okay.
And 1 day would be just maybe for the high school students. And the idea is that if I teach them, they can help me teach the other students how to do it.
I know at last year's MIA conference, me and Emma both got a chance to sit in on the baby moccasin thing, and that was really fun, you know what I mean? I got one full, little mock made in the hour, 2 hours we got to participate.
Yep.
So it's not too bad, but you want to make sure you have time to complete those projects.
Yeah, we would need to start like within the next week.
Yeah.
So we've already been talking about it. The kids are on board with it. The students are. Lincoln's on board with it. We just need this approval.
We
so
just
we
need
can
this
move
approval.
forward.
I mean, I think, again, a big part of this will be going back and taking our ideas to Betsy and making sure they are allowable for our state aid grants. Which, just based on my, rudimentary knowledge, these all sound like they would be. Go ahead, Lydia.
Just the experience we did moccasin making in the past, and it ended up taking, I feel like, having it be multiple days a week for about a month, those opportunities, because it ended up taking a lot longer than was originally thought for the students to make them. We had it scheduled for like a couple of hours once a week for a month, and that was not enough. So I feel like the idea of having it multiple days a week for a month is a lot better. Natalia was the only one who finished moccasins that year, just because there wasn't enough time and enough people that knew how to do it. Michelle Defoe came in and helped with that. So I think making sure that we have enough time for our students to do that is really important.
Right, so what I'm hearing is we agreed at least twice a week as soon as we get started. can, depending on how soon we get started, we might even want to extend it to 3 times a week. Just so we're saying we want 12 sessions in before Rock Your Mocks occurs. Go ahead.
So I started writing things down. Can you give me, do you have a projected date for Rock Your Mocks?
That is November, I think it's like the 13th or the 14th.
Okay.
So we also have an Indigenous Heritage Assembly planned here. The students participated in that last year. So I'm working with the Dean of Students and advising them, the Indigenous Student Council. So, yeah, it's in November. We have a whole week of events planned for that, and we'll also be participating in the Heritage Assembly again.
Okay, and so with the Rock Your Mocks, would that be an after school or during school?
That'll be a during school event. We're trying to plan 2 sessions. One of them would be to offer to some of the elementary schools for them to come here. And then last year, a group of students went to Laura Mack and they reached out to us again for us to bring our presentation to them. So that's where we kind of thought about possibly a second assembly where we would invite some of the elementary students here.
So the event will be during school. Will the time spent making the moccasins, will that be after school or during school?
That'll be after school for the month of October leading up till November.
Okay.
So that during that week we will have pride, like every day will be a different theme. Last year I think we did missing murdered Indigenous relatives, so we had a table out there, the students had handprints, they signed people's names up, we hung them on the glass out there. Another day I think they did some beading, some earring making, so it's up to, some of it is led by me, some of it is led by what the students want. So we've talked about a couple of things, like where your beadwork, like we did for Every Child Matters, we'd like to design some t-shirts this time, so the students could wear t-shirts. We made ribbons with the colors so that they can all show their pride, and if they don't have t-shirts, that they can still participate.
Add t-shirt design for Native American Heritage Week into the plan.
Yep. Actually, like a couple different times. But yeah, t-shirts, we definitely want to do that.
Okay, Amber.
I would love for our council to come in and present to us and talk to us about what they've been doing. Their ideas, their
Right on.
initiatives. I would love to hear from them.
Okay. I'm going to get my notes together.
So I do want to. Sorry. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, okay. So one of the things that last time we were together, which I think was just last week, Jeff had mentioned that he really wants to attend a lot of events, but that his main focus really needs to be on the plan. And of course, I mean, it's kind of an elephant in the room. Obviously, I have a little bit of a unique situation as a parent because, like, you know, I'm not just a parent. Like, I have a little bit of a background, some context, but I think all of these events are awesome, but I also like want to be mindful that like Jeff's time has to really be focused on, you know, the plan and things like that. One thing that I would really, really like us to get to, and I think we all want to get to, and we've talked about it for probably the last couple of years, is to get a calendar of events. And then one of the things that I'm also really hearing is the divide between elementary events and secondary events. And there seems to be a lot more organized secondary events, which makes sense because the kids are able to be more involved and, you know, take some student leadership and things like that. But my question, there is a question in here, I'm not just rambling, but my question is there someone within the department that is willing to take some leadership within the elementary, to organize, you know, maybe a couple of events with the students and the parents, because it seems like there may not be anyone, you know, I hear Jamie, and I know JP is really active with the secondary and others too. But I'm just a little concerned that there's so much going on and that things start getting like overwhelming. Okay, so I'll stop there. Other people have their
Thank
hands
you for
up.
that comment, Jen. I'm gonna move to Crystal. She had her hand raised next.
I forgot. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just gonna reiterate Jen's question. She is looking for who is taking point, basically ensuring events are happening at our elementary school, right? Is that kind of the heart of your concern? Okay, Anthony Bonds has his hand up. We'll move to him.
Thank you. Bonjour, everyone. One of the things that we have the opportunity with the coordinator position that is unfilled at this moment. So as you all know, that we have the language and culture coordinator. Their job is also to help support some of these kind of cultural efforts. And so having that person support some of those events, Jeff, at the elementary would be ideal.
Has somebody been hired for that?
At Piedmont.
For the language and culture coordinator?
Oh, not that. No. A liaison at Piedmont was hired recently. They want to do
An American Indian homeschool liaison was hired at Piedmont. Okay, so that would be good for us to know who that and get a meet and greet with new employees in the Indian Education Department. Lydia, you're next.
Just that to piggyback off of what Jen had said about the lack of elementary events, we don't, and some of that I think is directly related to staff distribution. Right now we have most of our staff are at the middle school and high school level, and I know some of that is just where kids are located and funding and applicants, and there's a lot that goes into that. But our two most highly populated elementary schools that have Native American students don't have a liaison. Like Myers-Wilkins is a racially identified school. It's what gives us our Title I funding, and we don't have a liaison or any staff even checking in that building from what I'm aware of. So I think part of it is that we don't have people in the building to be even making connections with those students, and I think that's reflective of the committee where most of the parents that are here are middle school or high school parents. And so I feel like that the lack of involvement from the elementary level is creating a more systemic, if we're not in the schools, the parents don't know that we're here, they can't get involved, and it just creates, the ripple effect of that. So I agree that what that looks like, the district can kind of play around with that, but I do agree that there's a significant lack of elementary support.
Go ahead, Jamie.
I just wanted to kind of point out too that one of the things that came up previously with the elementary is that there was no space for us in the building, and so that was like, I don't know what the situation is now at Myers since they started the immersion program there, but I know that I had to go out there and clean out the space that I was in, and everybody who was in that room was being moved out for a classroom. So that was something that we talked about with Sheila, that before people are going to be assigned to those buildings, that was part of the tour that you guys took to look at the spaces. We haven't had an update about any of that yet, that those people need a place to work with kids if they're going to be at that school.
Absolutely.
And that's an issue that still remains unresolved.
In that tour, some of our spaces were woefully lacking. We had liaison sharing space with occupational therapy, which, you know what I mean, it was a very sterile environment. I think, you know what I mean, services were still happening, at least as far as that went. But Mr. Bug's room was probably the size of a closet. He had, when we visited, he had 3 students, including him in there, so 4 people, and we all kind of packed in like sardines. So clearly he's somebody they're comfortable with, but is there space to give adequate support? Dustin had a nice space. Are you still in the same space, Dustin?
I am.
I think your space was probably one of my favorites.
It does get
Susanna,
tight
her
too.
second space was really nice at Laura Mack. Very colorful and welcoming. Yeah. trying to understand where Jamie fits in as far as cohort, and when cohort classes, how are other students able to access you if needed?
That's part of why some of those classes are gonna have to take place outside the school day, because when we're not in here with the cohort classes, the room is being used for language or something else.
Yeah.
So I don't have access to the space.
Yep. So, go ahead, Dustin.
So, we have what's called an area at our school twice a week for about an hour and a half. I have students in my room at that time, and at the most I could probably cap it at 6.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd like to get more in there because, you know, at this time I'm staggering grades as each area goes along.
Mhm.
And each area lasts maybe 6 weeks at a time.
Mhm.
So, and I got to cap it at 6. You know, all the kids that wanted to come in, you know, they see what we're doing. They want to paint. You know, they want to do beads. You know.
Right.
I said, well, you know, I don't have space. I don't have chairs. I don't have tables.
Right. You like you said, you have a max capacity of 6, so you're kind of acting as kind of like a triage person. Like, okay, is it, you know, how are you deciding? And that's kind of up to you as a liaison. Like, you get some autonomy.
And it really was decided the first 6 that signed up because I didn't know how to. As 6th graders, I didn't know when they're coming in who needs what and this and that. You know, so.
I got a question for you. Is there an obvious space in the school that you know of?
Yes and no. It changes every year.
And
We got new staff coming in, old staff leaving every year, and I've been in that building for 6 years, and as far as I know, everybody's switched rooms at least once.
I guess I have a 2-part question and or suggestions. Number 1 is I hear a lot of concerns. I don't understand what the process is to bring that concern formally to the school. And, you know, obviously the school has Title 4 obligations, but, you know, just talking about them in the space, I don't know if that's enough to make those demands and also request answers. So I'm wondering what the procedure is for that. And if there is a procedure, then I think we need a status update on hiring of all those positions. And then we also need, you know, which is who got hired, or, you know, how many applicants were, like, who's not hired, etc.
I don't think they can disclose who doesn't get hired just because of HR confidentiality, though.
Yeah, so I didn't suggest that. I just suggested how many applicants there were there and who got hired.
I
Right.
actually really love that.
And secondly, I think we need an update on this space because it seems to be like an ongoing problem and it's not something new. So is there an answer today? And if there isn't one, how do we get one? So we need to, what is the process to make a formal request to the school? How do we start that? And my second part question suggestion is, so I am an elementary school parent and I don't know anything about these committees. That's why I'm here. And in terms of this newsletter, I think that's a really excellent idea. I don't think we need to wait until next year. I think a newsletter right now about Jeff and the current liaisons and the plans that they're having, that's enough information to get the community started and knowing about the work that we're doing, but also maybe like in the newsletter include a link for suggestions for, you know, like what kind of programming they would like to see at their elementary school, or, you know, what resources are missing. So I would suggest to kind of resolve the issue of, you know, lack of programming, or like the invite to this, like what do you want to see, right? Like, let's do a newsletter and include a forum for people to respond there. So yeah, thank you.
I appreciate all of what you just said, very much having a process to get that information. How many open positions do we have? And we did get a standard operating procedure and a recruitment and retention plan last April. So just kind of reviewing those documents and seeing where they are and asking that question. I guess I would guess in my head the procedure would start with, and new coordinator, who I don't believe will have the answer, but we have Anthony Bonds online here hearing our questions too, so that would be a good point person to lead that as far as what can be shared with us publicly. The second part, the newsletter, I also agree. There's a lot happening right now, and letting the community know. We hear we've all got kind of our ears on the ground, and we're hearing all kinds of things, and making sure that we are getting that information out to our families so they can be involved. Every single meeting, I'm seeing a full room, right? We have parents who really want to be involved, so let's get them the information. Let's get them here in the room, and let's get their input. With that in mind, last meeting we had Danielle, who was in Parent Suggest ACO. I did reach out to ACO about possibly hosting our November 5th meeting. They already have the room, the big Hollis Center room reserved for an event that day. They offered the smaller, like, front conference room, but that only seats, like, what, maybe 10 people. So I wanted to put out there possibly hosting the November 5th meeting at an alternative school site, maybe even one of the elementary schools. Where does your kids go?
Lowell.
Lowell. I've never been in Lowell. Like, is there an adequate meeting space there?
The cafeteria could work there at Lowell. Also, the gym is huge. That's where they hold, like, well, last year that's where they did the end of year celebration for the kids and stuff.
Okay. They have a media center that we could tap in. Just trying to think about making sure that we have that virtual option available. There's the media center at Lowell that has a smart board and stuff like that.
I'm gonna go to Jamie and then I'll go to Anthony Bonds.
So two things. So one, we need an update from the tours that you guys took and the status of that. We did all the tours, we got that, so we need to know the status of that, like where that should stop there. And number two, Lowell closes at 6. So part of when you decide, the community schools are open past 6 o'clock. So that's going to be a challenge for you guys. So meeting at the elementary schools, even Laura Mack, it closes at 6. So you're going to be done at 6. If you're not done at 6, then there'll probably be a fee attached then.
Okay.
So know that.
Is it Myers Brookings Community School?
I had a Girl Scout event at Congdon, and they did close, but we were still allowed to be in there. As long as somebody like mans the door,
you have to.
They let us be there. So I don't know.
We could put in for it. We'll see what happens.
Is that something that Jeff and Greg could look into? What logistically would it look like to use an elementary school past?
Well, it all depends on facilities because you're supposed to go directly through facilities management with those requests. So we would just have to message them and see.
It can happen. They just have to pay someone to be there, and
that's what I'm saying. If we're wanting, because I also looked at Harrison Center as a community, like, kind of option. We're paying a fee there anyways. So if we got to pay a fee and we get like a different group of parent accessibility, I say the fee is worth it. But we should probably include some meeting fees into our plan for like our bit when we're wanting to reach out to a larger community.
Harrison has a
internet access.
All that. No.
Yeah. So I am going to just go. I'm going to move to Anthony Bonds and then I'll go back to Anthony.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm trying to keep up with all the questions, so these are really awesome questions. So just to circle back, I think the first question I recall, Mrs. Greensky, was, as a coordinator for the language and culture position been hired? The answer is no. We are still in the process of actively identifying candidates, and hopefully we can fill that position. And what I was suggesting is, once that position is filled, that'd be an ideal person to help support some of the elementary activities and outreach efforts and so forth, and events that was all being discussed here. That's one. Two, I'm trying to keep up with all the different things now in my head. Regarding space, it is possible at the elementary. We just have to get the facilities use in, and that will determine if available, if things can be available. Also, especially in sites where there's like community ed already happening, those are the really easy sites to jump on because they already have custodial support. So there might be some easy spots to join where those elementary schools have potentially some after-hour activities already occurring. But other spaces still could be covered. 3, I agree with, I think Mrs. Garbo said this in terms of things that are out there that need to get done. I think we shared this, Jeff Smith, that priority is really about trying to get those plans done and make sure there's time to do that while still continue with those opportunities and programming that is happening. So programming is occurring, events are occurring, things are happening. So just want to be mindful of that. I think there was a mom that expressed concerns or some warnings about things. The coordinator, Jeff, is the person you go to. So let's start with him. I think Mrs. Greensky said that as well. Everything starts with Jeff as the coordinator. If there are things that you want to report on, please, connect with him. He will make sure he connects with the appropriate district person. We will come back with a report at a future meeting for that. And I'll end with this one. And that also goes with the concurrence and non-concurrence. I want to make sure that we also get ahead of the concurrence and non-concurrence, because one of the things on the concurrence and non-concurrence was looking at the rooms and making sure, there was tours provided to consider room and usage. So that will satisfy that concurrence, non-concurrence request and recommendation. So there should be a report. And anything on that concurrence, non-concurrence, we want to make sure there is a report brought back to the committee. But those things need to be mapped out in a timely fashion with Jeff so that they can be spread out over the year and not all done at once. Because that's a lot of stuff, and all those things can't be done at once.
I appreciate that. I know I submitted my report to the last coordinator after our tours. I don't know if that was ever compiled into a final document or not. I do actually still have my paper copy in my bin of papers, so I will submit that down to Jeff.
So, yes, thank you, and thank you for everybody who recognizes that there is a lot on my plate. I think we can agree that the plan is super important. I definitely want to incorporate things that are already done or that are being planned. Again, a lot of stuff is getting put on my plate. I really want to make sure I'm able to focus in on the AIPAC plan and the Title VI, because they need to get done so funding can be secured. Also, I do want to point out that the district does have a rule right now that started on September 1st that all purchases need to be pre-approved. Yes, so if you are planning events and needing to buy materials, everything needs to be pre-approved. And I want to say it's like 7 days in advance. Does that sound right, Gray? Or Anthony?
I don't have the number of days in my head, but I can look quickly.
Okay. So
I just have a question. Who is doing that approval? You, as far as our Indian Education Aid Plan dollars go?
that's a good question. I would imagine that's a very big possibility, and that I would also ask Anthony to chime in on that as well.
The answer is yes, you would be the one
Yes.
making those approvals.
There you go.
Because it's anything connected to the P card. We just tightened up our processes across the district with the use of P cards. We didn't have a really good system in place, and so we're tightening it up. So any manager or every manager who has a P card is the one who has to make those approvals.
Yeah.
So it is Jeff in this case.
Yeah, and if I could piggyback on that, I'm still in the process of finalizing that, so that adds to the difficulty of getting those types of requests pulled through. Still working on the plans. That also adds to the difficulty of getting things approved. So please be mindful and merciful in making these requests. And if there are ideas of these events are amazing. I would love to be able to do them all tomorrow. And I definitely want to try to incorporate as many of these ideas into the plan as possible. But there is, thank you, Jennifer Garble, for pointing out there is a time crunch. And it would actually be really helpful if you have events and things that you would like me to consider and to write in the plan. If you could write up a little like proposal or an estimate of what you would think it would take to pull off the event, including if you happen to have cost estimates.
I just want to clarify, are you asking parents to do this, or is that a staff job?
I'm talking about staff.
Okay,
Sorry,
thank
yes.
you.
No, for
So
staff.
are you gonna share though that policy with us? Is that gonna be shared with us at some point?
Well, I guess I need to know where the policy is, but that is what I was told by the finance office this week.
Yep.
Where
so
that
are
is.
you gonna share that with the rest of us?
Well, where that is housed on the web, I'm still getting used to the website. But I mean, it's the finance office that
I
told
just
me that
mean like
specifically.
even in an email, because there's like a lot of us in our department who do that. So that's the first I've heard of it. So if it's a district thing, I feel like I should get an email about that.
Well, and again, it is definitely on my radar to do a staff meeting to talk about these things. Again, my apologies. I just started this week, and Anthony Bug put it on my radar about a staff meeting. So thank you to him for that. And it's, like I said, I do want to meet with the staff, and I do want to bring things like this up into attention. Because I do want to make sure that we're in compliance with grants, with the purchase rules, and with the regulations. That's really, really important to me, that we're not violating any rules, and that everything's getting done at a very orderly fashion.
Angelica, I saw your hand up. Crystal has had her hand up a couple of times. I just want to make sure our online participants are being heard. Crystal, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was just curious because I'm not sure. Is Masabacon and Indian American Indian and the whatever, is that there two separate things?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we've been told. Is that correct, Mr. Bonds?
If I understood the question, yes, they are different. The Masabacon immersion program is funded fully by the school district, and we have Native students that are in that program. It's like 50-50 approximately. So 50% of the students that are in there are Native, and 50% are not. And so the district obviously is supporting the immersion program to make sure it's successful, because it's all connected to the preservation of the language and making sure Native students and non-Native students grow in their language. So, but they are different funding sources, but obviously the district has to support all of it.
Okay. Can I ask a question piggybacking off that?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So when we're thinking about the education plan, even though they're not technically in the American Indian Education Department, they do have obviously a vested interest. So, there's threads with, approximately half of their students being Native students. I think it would be a good idea to have some input and to have them provide a small and simple plan of what they may need, because their needs are different. Their needs are different than other teachers. And in my experience, their needs are more expensive than other teachers. And so if the plan is clear, this is what the set amount for the entire year is. This is the parameters of what your program has. There could be some flexibility within that, but this is what you have to work with within the year. It eliminates a lot of potential, it gets kind of ahead of potential issues. So I think it's good, it might be good to have a conversation, Jeff, with someone there, or, I don't know how you want to figure that out. I think the language person, when they get there, they may be able to help facilitate some of that conversation, but they're just a little unique.
Miigwech, Jen, I see Crystal's hand up, but I want to go back to Angelica. She had her hand up earlier.
I guess I'm going to try to be really, really quick. Jeff, I just wanted to thank you for taking this position. I know it's a lot, and there's a lot coming at you, and I appreciate that. And I just want you to understand that this is not, we're not attacking you or have concerns. You know, you just started. But hearing that this is the first time our liaisons heard about this rule is really disappointing. And I hope there's some flexibility moving forward with having to get that pre-approval until they're familiarized with the requirement and able to comply with that. So that's just my ask of the district.
Crystal, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, like, our children, so my daughter's been in, this is her 3rd year in Masagoton, and it is absolutely good for them to be learning their cultural stuff, but we're still learning the same thing every year. It never changes. We don't do anything different. There's no events that our children attend. There's no, there's just not.
So we're hearing I'm just going to summarize kind of what I've just heard as far as our elementary schools go. There is a huge need to see our American Indian education programs happening in Lowell, Myers-Wilkins, Condon, and those sites where we no longer have liaisons at the elementary level. Is that accurate?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is my daughter's 3rd year learning about ricing. I'm pretty sure she's figured it out by now. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think that finding something different for them to learn, like, we're doing the same things over and over and over, and our kids are getting bored.
Crystal, if I could jump in, thank you for sharing that. That's why we created that position for, called the language and cultural coordinator position. We created that position to support immersion programming, to develop curriculum so that, it can improve and enhance the curriculum and the instruction that's happening in immersion. And it's also more and bigger than just immersion. It's also to help support those events and things that's being discussed here. So that's why we really are actively trying to get someone. So if you all know someone who is interested in applying for that position is still up and still available. So please encourage someone to apply for that if you know them.
One other thing is, it seems like our teachers have a huge wish list at the beginning of every year. Like, it's crazy. Like, they're not, almost like they don't have funding for the things that they need for their classrooms to be able to, get through the year. Like, the 2nd grade, and this is another thing. Our 2nd and 3rd grade teacher, she's the same teacher. And I think our 4th and 5th grade teacher is the same teacher too. Like, they're teaching 2 classes of students, and having to separate their time between 2nd grade and 3rd grade. So our children aren't getting the education or the attention from the teacher that they need because they're having to split their time between two grades.
And I'll answer that very quickly. I know you want to move on because Mom keeps bringing up some really good questions. And the reason that is, Mom, is we had a teacher position sitting there waiting, but we haven't been able to fill it for the last 2 years because we don't have someone who has a language proficiency and that has applied. So unfortunately, we have a position that has been unfilled, and that's the reason why the classrooms are combined, because we were not able to fill the position with proficient person.
Have you guys maybe put out a thing at Fond du Lac Community College to the language students that are graduating, like the graduate students that are done with their language, whatever, at the end of the year or beginning of each year, saying, hey, we need teachers. Like,
yes. I mean, we go hard, and it's really difficult. And I know Jennifer and Barbara will be able to share that as well, and others. It's just really difficult. There's a small pool of candidates who might apply for immersion teacher programs. I'll stop there.
Okay, I'm going to take a final comment on this from Lydia, and then we're going to move on in our agenda.
I just wanted to reiterate to everybody that if there's specific concerns about specific classrooms or certain functions, that Jeff would be the best person to bring that to initially as the coordinator for Indian Ed. Like if there's like specific classroom things that are happening, like the
But Masabicon isn't under his department.
Right.
Well,
That's why I asked if Masabicon and American Indian education is different, because then where do we go if we're separate?
That would be a question for Anthony Bonds. Would it be the building principal as the point of contact for a concerned parent?
Okay.
Is that an accurate?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, one more thing.
One more thing. Go right
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, so we talked last time about doing that tier 1 teacher thing for American history, language, and culture.
Yep.
So that is another avenue to explore for language teachers. You know, there was a time when they did hire a teacher and they changed it from immersion to American Indian culture and language because they did not have an immersion teacher, but they did have a qualified American Indian teacher.
Which for that historical knowledge and tying in information from the last meeting. I really appreciate that. Okay, we only have about 10 more minutes. We got a lot discussed about what's happened this year, what we'd like to see happen, what's kind of on our short-term list, and longer goals. So I appreciate everybody's feedback there. Our department report was the exact same as the new business, so really nothing to say there. At our last meeting, there was a request to have the MIA conference on the agenda. I have linked here, basically it's I don't know if it'll kick you out of the Facebook page, but just to save the date with the dates on, it will be at the Mystic Lake Casino this year. Do we have an estimate of what we spent 2 years ago to send? Because I think we sent about 15 staff, students, and parents in the 2023-2024 school year. Does that sound accurate? Either Jen or Greg could comment on that.
I wasn't here for that.
Yes, you were. That was your first year.
2023, 2024?
Yep.
It was a lot. I think it was more than 15.
Yeah, right, because that was the year.
Oh, yeah.
And it was around 20.
It was a large number, so I mean, if we could just have that estimate up front when we're including it in the plan, because we pretty much said yes to everybody, but everybody showed up, right?
Yeah, it kind of got carried away. I mean, but we didn't want to turn anyone away because it was engaging. You know, it was a good opportunity for parents and students to engage. But it also, I felt like it got carried away a little bit.
I would agree with you if everybody hadn't shown up, but I don't think anybody didn't show up for it. But I do think setting a cap on how many people are sent. I've gone 2 years in a row. I would love to give somebody else that opportunity to go. Another parent and get that same opportunity that I got. Go ahead, Amber.
Just a quick, so whenever we all went, none of us got reimbursed for mileage or
God, that's
food and
right.
drinks or anything. So that would have to be added in as an estimate.
Yep. Thank you for that. I forgot about that.
I didn't.
So we'll have to adjust our estimate just a little bit. But I definitely think important things to look into, to include in the plan, these realistic estimates for how that will look. And I do know that is an applicable use of our MIA, or not MIA, but our state aid grant dollars. Anything else to talk about as far as potential professional conferences go? Hearing nothing, moving. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Is anyone going to go to the national conference? The National Indian Education Association? Or any other one? next year? Or can we put in a thing to
Dustin's
possibly?
going to.
Well, but that's JON.
That's J-O-N.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's completely different.
So I guess I would just ask that, since there's a lot of things that we're involved in now, and we're looking for these cultural opportunities, and we're looking for culturally based interventions and stuff, that there is room for one of our staff people or somebody to go when they identify a conference or an opportunity that would make sense for them to participate in.
I appreciate that input, and maybe when it gets entered into the plan, included in like professional development, so that if a liaison has attended MIEA for several years and would like, you know what I mean, to expand, you get this additional information that they have that opportunity.
Because this is where, like, I bring back information about other presenters
Yeah.
that have been here and have provided professional development for the district.
Okay, so not limiting ourselves in the plan to just MIEA and, for example, it's NIEA, right?
Yep, NIEA.
Okay, and that's the
JON,
national conference.
some
so
other national conferences.
I actually think that's a great suggestion. Lydia, you have your hand up?
Just that this year NEIA is October 8th through 11th, so it wouldn't be feasible for this year, but I feel like,
I don't think we could make that call.
well, if we don't have the plan submitted, to have that level of travel. It's in like 7 days, the conference.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's no way that's gonna happen.
October,
Not for
Okay.
me.
October. So I feel like being really aware of those dates when they come out for next year and like planning that.
Well, okay, so this is good feedback because we have another plan due June 1st and making sure we're not limiting ourselves in future years to just saying, oh, we are only putting in for this one conference, that our staff has their own professional development in mind and can kind of be self-determined as far as where their own education goes. Go ahead, Angelica.
I guess I would suggest like forming a committee, maybe between all, I don't know, is it a subcommittee between all the committees for professional development, and then they could identify the opportunities and the parameters and budgets and who gets to go and how often, and that would be my proposal.
So is that for you guys, or is that for like the staff? Because the staff has their own professional development stuff that we're allowed to participate
I think that would be for at least, because we're advisory as far as the Title VI plan and the AIPAC plan, or the state aid plan. JOM, we have a little more authority there. But just having, I like what you're saying, a subcommittee where a representative from each group, is that kind of what you're saying?
I don't, if that's possible. This is just the second time I've heard about staff development, and it doesn't sound like there's a plan
Yeah.
or parameters or kind of somebody says, "Can I go?" and then they're either approved or they aren't. There should be maybe some criteria there.
Developing policy and procedure around how that gets done.
Right.
Okay, I like that. I love policy and procedure. Something you can reflect back on and look at, are we following this? Does anyone volunteer to be on the subcommittee for that from this AIPAC group?
Can I add something real quick?
Go ahead, Jen.
I think that's a great idea. I also want to caution us that it's a really small group right now, and we have to kind of think about a healthy balance, that we don't want to necessarily create any barriers that, or anything that could potentially be a barrier for any parents or caregivers that would want to participate in these things. Because we are, if it was a large, consistent group of like 20 parents, say, attending every meeting, to have the policies and procedures that might warrant it. This is such a small group, so you might want to consider, like, at this point, Jeff might want to meet with like the chairs and just have some type of, I don't know, some statement about, what is the purpose of professional development for the parents, and just have that as kind of the North Star this time around. And then hopefully as the parent committee grows, there could be, some additional parameters or something like that. I mean, I agree, it's not probably healthy to have the same parents continue to go year after year. I mean, it's good to have new opportunities, but I just get concerned about additional barriers, you know, because it's just still such a small group. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Appreciated. Yeah, we'll keep that in mind. Moving on to sewing machines. I'm gonna let Jeff provide an update on sewing machines.
So the sewing machines, I did some digging, and I did have a report that was, in which my copy is missing.
Here.
Thank you. Good. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, Lydia. So the report states that on the 25th of June, the previous coordinator, Sheila White, had attended the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee meeting. Shortly afterwards, she had reevaluated the numbers when looking at the Title VI budget, and certain expenses were still coming in from the end of the year projects that were remaining from the Title VI funds that needed to be spent down before the fiscal year was cut off on June 30th. She made the decision to purchase those sewing machines. I don't know much beyond that. I do know that I know where the sewing machines are. I actually tracked them down this morning. I see them. They do exist. We do have a couple pallets of them up at, what's the building next to the center?
Facilities.
The facilities. So these sewing machines are there. So I guess the question I have is, how do we move forward since this purchase has already taken place, and what can we do with these sewing machines that would be good or positive in the future?
So the $28,000 sewing machine, what kind of sewing machine is that?
That one I have not found yet.
That's a huge issue.
Yeah.
So I take it you found the 11, or wait, no, it was 30 sewing machines.
Yeah.
That value.
Well, I believe it's in there under the pallet, but there's big boxes and stuff. So the ones I saw specifically today is I was able to open a small box and see the specific ones. The big one would take more time to track down.
Okay, so that's.
I don't know.
I see a hand up, Anthony Bonds. Go right ahead.
Yep, I'll be quick. For Jeff's benefit and everyone, these had to be made through a purchase order, so I'm pretty sure there's documentation and finance related to the purchase. They will identify the machines and the number of machines and the make and models and everything. So that's all in finance. We can get that easily.
Well, I believe it was paid for. I believe there's paperwork on them.
Yeah.
The physical machines and the plan for the machines. We're talking about space being a premium. My assumption for the $28,000 machine is that it is one of those long arm specialty quilting sewing machines, because I can't think of another type of sewing machine that would cost that much. So basically, where is that going to be used, and how do we ensure that our community gets access to it, our student gets access to it, and that it was bought for American Indians? How are these sewing machines going to close our education gaps? You know, I have no doubt that the money went out and that there's a paper trail, but I'm concerned about the actual product. And
Where do you would it be a pretty big machine, wouldn't it?
yeah, it would be huge. It would be huge.
I don't think it should be that hard to find.
I agree. Go ahead,
Just
Lydia.
saying.
So is part of the question, are these helpful to our students? Is that part of what?
Well, they could be helpful with a plan in place, but
Well,
this
wasn't
coordinator
that-
didn't make that plan.
Wasn't
This
that in the
coordinator didn't
plan?
make that decision.
Well, we had that in the plan last year, didn't
No, we
we?
didn't.
About ribbon skirt making and.
How does a long arm help?
Well, no, I'm talking about like
making?
the sewing machines, because there's like just more standard size sewing machines, correct?
Culture.
Yeah.
But what is the plan?
Who has access to that?
Right.
You know,
Creative
all these
language and
different
All
culture
these things.
coordinator.
And the Title, and issue is the Title VI plan that we approved we were told it was all going to salaries. For the coordinator, for our senior office support staff, and for a single Title VI liaison. So $40,000 excess, I question how that happens. That's a finance piece that I don't understand, and I would need somebody to explain that to me.
Do you not get an accounting every year?
We asked. I didn't get it. I didn't get
Jeff,
the accounting
you don't
until
get an
after,
Okay,
after
again.
the fiscal year ended.
Again, I am still investigating this. It's on my radar. I know it's very important to people. I'm also taking time to consider what can we do with these things for future programming in a way that would be healthy.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are a lot of cultural class activity possibilities. So I'm still working on it. Again, I just learned about this very
Right.
shortly. I was happy to find out that, I know where they're at.
It sounds like you need a culture and language coordinator.
Yes, that would be really good. And I had battered around some ideas, about the possibility of trying to do classes with them at some point. But it does take time to plan classes, especially if they're an in-school elective for high schoolers. So, I'm very interested in having conversations going forward about the kinds of things we could do with these. The purchase happened. So I'm still learning about it. And I look forward to, in the future, being able to update you more about this. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a process, especially with everything that's going on this week.
Absolutely. I'm glad that some of the physical machines have been located. There's one that I'm very concerned about because this type of machine you don't move around, right? It needs to have a home somewhere, and it needs to have someone trained on its use. Those things, we already submitted a title plan for this year, and it wasn't. Sewing machines weren't included in that, right? Once again, it was all staff. It was allocated entirely to staff. So that's where that coordination of services come in, and we need to have written in our AIEA plan space where this machine is going to be housed. Are we going to have a cost sharing mechanism if other programs have access to it and use it? There is a ton to think about. If we want to use it for community engagement, you know what I mean? If we want to have, whole communities are built on sewing circles, you know what I mean? And there's infinite potential, but if we don't have the space, if we don't have the knowledge to use it, if we don't have the supplies to put into it in our budget, it's going to go on a pallet and get forgotten about. And that doesn't help our students.
Not if I can help it.
Miigwech for that. We are at 6:06. I'm going to open the floor for final comments and then adjourn. Anybody online?
Did we determine a location for November's meeting, or is that who's going to make that determination, or how?
I believe I heard we wanted it at Lowell. I was going to put a facilities request in for Lowell, and if there was going to be an additional charge, we would just have to pay it because we'd pay that for a community center anyways.
Lincoln's open all the time. Lincoln's open till 9 o'clock.
Lincoln's should we move into Lincoln and do kind of a
That's near my
community?
house.
I could do a facilities thing, but
All right, I'm hearing because we have our liaison from Lincoln here saying he would like the meeting at Lincoln.
I would like to
support
check out
that.
Lincoln.
I
Oh, wait, I
support
won't.
It's
You
beautiful.
won't be here.
I won't be here. But I thought, okay, in the future, I would like to check out Lincoln.
I appreciate that, Dustin. We'll put in a facilities request to have our November 5th meeting at Lincoln. And then we'll update our schedule and our agenda to show that.
Did we determine what time? Did we determine times for the rest? Start
I think
times?
we're gonna, I guess we can take a quick vote on that. Are we comfortable with the 4:30 to 6 p.m. time frame?
I still like that time frame.
I do.
I support it.
All in favor, raise your hand. Crystal raising her hand. I see Jennifer Garbo raising her hand. I think that's who we have for online participants. Jamie, Amber, Dustin, Curtis, Emma, do you have your Emma? Anyone opposed to using Lincoln for our next meeting? Or no, anyone opposed to the 4:30 to 6 p.m. time frame? That's what I'm asking.
I mean,
You,
five-
Lydia?
5 would be better just with kids pickup and stuff like that, but if 4:30 is what works for the majority.
I'm hearing the majority saying 4:30. Crystal, go ahead.
Just a quick question. For parent participation, we need to maybe figure out something for childcare for our parents during meetings so that more parents can attend. That's one thing. And then we should try to look at space that's available for meetings so that it is consistent and we're not having to move around a whole bunch.
I absolutely agree with that. Childcare is something we should put into the plan
every year.
implementation.
I just part of the reason why we want to move around a little bit is to capture parents that might not be able to attend way out west. Maybe they'll feel more comfortable, be more accessible if it's
Every
on
year
if they're centralized. So that's what I thought.
I think it's going to be a hard balancing act.
I support the original intent that it should be in various locations to give people a geographic opportunity.
I think if we found it somewhere smack dab in the middle of everything, that would be beneficial instead of moving around all the time, really. Just my opinion.
Yeah, it would be really nice to have them at ACO, but we would have had to work on the schedule way in advance.
Well, that's just somewhere to work on.
New big hospital and one of those really grand meetings.
Really?
All I have to do is reserve ahead of time.
That would be an option.
I can see if it's available.
We are going
Central
to.
is right on the bus line.
I think for this year, because we don't have a good meeting space already, we're going to have to trial around. I think in the future, hopefully we can get that kind of settled as we become more organized. I'm hearing Essentia might have space available for us if we get enough advance notice, which is a good central location.
Looking at Grant Rec.
Grant Rec, I'm hearing.
Could be an option.
I reached out to ACO, but it's kind of dependent if they already have an event scheduled that night.
Even Washington Center might be a possibility.
Washington Center, okay.
So somewhere downtown probably would be ideal.
Yeah.
I think we have to think about parking if we're going to do downtown, if there's ample parking.
Yeah, there's that. I think like Lowell or Myers Brooklyn's pretty much smack dab in the middle too. I know they're elementary schools and whatnot, but those are always possible options too that are pretty much in the middle of everything.
And honestly, having our meetings at the elementary school would at least have our presence there, even if there's not a liaison, so we can kind of hear those parents and hear those needs. Again, I think for this year, we're going to have to move spaces a little bit. But we will work collectively over the next month and identify some good spaces. We already have our regular schedule set, so we can kind of, work on that. And get those meeting spaces finalized. But the meeting time is set 4:30 to 6 p.m. Did I cover everything people wanted to cover?
Yeah, remember we had talked about doing a weekend meeting? Remember we talked about that a couple meetings ago, about doing a meeting on a weekend day, so like parents that work in the nights during the week or whatever might be available. Have we thought about that anymore?
Honestly, that would be a great time potentially to have an outreach meeting. You know what I mean? Kind of a meet and greet or even, you know what I mean? That might be difficult with staff if they have weekend plans, but I think we can be flexible and add like a supplemental every weekend meeting for further outreach. I think a lot of our needs are related to outreach and being more accessible to community. Go ahead.
Might be a good time to try to do some 506 forms or JOM forms too.
Absolutely.
Just thinking out loud.
Yes. All right, Miigwich, we are at 6:13. 2 minutes.
One more thing. Tomorrow at Lincoln Middle School is family night from 5 to 7. We're gonna have a table set up. There will be Bobby the Wagon in the gym. We'll have a taco truck.
Oh.
We'll hair braiding, stuff like that. You know, from 5 to 7 at Lincoln Park Middle School. Family night.
With that, 5 to 7 tomorrow night at Lincoln Park Middle School. They're having a family night on the taco truck. I have your railway information.
It's really hard to hear you. I'll just text you, Amber. Thank you.
Miigwich, Crystal.
I don't know if you guys got it.
Good night, guys. Bye.
Do you want to take a picture of it?
6:14. I called this meeting adjourned. Miigwich, everybody, please come on.
Miigwich, Amber.